Welcome in to the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show, a proud member of Underdog Fantasy, and we got you with, once again, another promo code, and by another, I mean the same, because when you use code TRIPLE, they're going to match your deposit up to $100. That's more than $99, a little bit less than $101. So they're giving you that nice round number. Another thing to appreciate about him. Still no D-Mendy. D-Mendy nearing back from the IL soon, and he's going to slide right back into the host spot, so I will get relegated. We're going to switch it up with the introduction. I'm going to go to my right, and I'm going to go to Art TPF LC. What's going on?
Coming off of a good Memorial Day weekend, great time going back home, brought my kids. We have to have a discussion in the fantasy community about Sundays when you're out of town, finding 10 minutes to get to your phone and how difficult it is to do fab on your phone. It is the bare minimum fab you can do. But apart from the fact that fab was a bit of a distraction from a really good weekend, not a huge distraction. I got some good fab ads, but I did not sit down like I normally do because I was having a barbecue at the time. Good weekend, though. How y'all doing?
I want to know, is this controversial that you do fab from your phone? Like, now that I'm, and this is a subtle brag, still fifth in TGFBI, knock on wood, whatever.
Hey,
whatever things I can say to unjinx myself. I use both my phone and computer. But Marty, what do you use for fab?
I need to be in front of two monitors in my office, both up, good to go. I usually do fab earlier on Sunday, like just kind of like 80% of it. And then I kind of check throughout the day. And only if American Idol's on and I have my cell phone, will I do some tweaking on the cell phone. But you got to be in front of a couple monitors to make it easy on yourself.
I'm with you. And maybe, do you guys look at last 7 days stats, like when deciding who's hot, who's not? Because I don't think the NFBC format is the easiest. So I feel like I have to, kind of get a little bit creative.
Yeah, this is my third or fourth year like using the NFBC, and I'm finally now starting to feel comfortable. Not Yahoo comfortable. I feel like I'm extremely comfortable with that website, but we're getting closer there. It's not the easiest to navigate at first.
Gotcha. Well, look at us sharing some fab strategies on a Monday. But we are going to talk about Week 10. We're now in the double-digit season of baseball. Wow, opening day just felt like the other day. And once again, what skateboarders do on rails, we're grinding. And part of the grind is talking about the WOW players of the week. And I'm going to go with the cover boy, and that is Mr. David Fry. If you play in a two-catcher league, you are definitely familiar with him. But if not, maybe he's somebody that's catching your attention recently. Doesn't play every day yet, but over the last 7 days, a 462, 632, 923 triple slash, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, and a steal. If you play on ESPN, he's catcher, he's first base, he's outfield, he's DH eligible, which I don't even know why you throw DH in at this point. Marty, obviously, like I said, 2 catcher leagues he's taken. But if you're in a 10, 12-team league, is David Fry the guy to add?
I know Art wanted the touch on him, but I would take a stab at him at this point. I mean, especially if you're in a 10 or 12-team league, I'm churning over my catchers because it seems like every time I do get a catcher, they get hurt. So I've gone from Logan O'Hoppe to Shea Langoliers to whoever's hot. So yeah, why not?
Art, that was the cue that I meant to give it to you. So
and Fry is someone like he's hitting 344. That plays. And his playing time is starting to increase. He was averaging about 15 plate appearances per week in May, which at second catcher is good enough, especially someone who's hitting 344. He's brought us decent power so far in the season, 6 home runs already in his 93 at bats, which is an excellent pace. I like him. I think he's someone you should pick up as a second catcher. Hard to find him available in most deeper leagues, but in the 12-2 catcher league, he's someone who I'd be targeting it because catcher actually coming into the season, I feel like we were talking about it as this, oh, look how deep it is this year. It's not deep. It's not deep. Like there's like 16 good catchers, maybe 14, I'm not going to name them off, but like trying to replace a catcher that gets injured, you're scraping the barrel. Fry is someone who has been, with the increase in the plate appearances, 15 a week, I think, for a second catcher. What do you guys? 15 a week is pretty decent for a second catcher. It's not ideal, but that's 3.5 games a week at a good rate. At his good hitting stats right now, ride that hot hand. 344 on the season. That plays.
One of the things when I had mentioned weeks ago to drop Rene Pinto, that was my second catcher, and I picked up David Fry. And somebody that has benefited from the hot streak. And Art, like you said, the number one thing I'm looking at in a 2-catcher league, the plate appearances, and then looking forward, who is playing 6 or 7 games a week, who's hitting in the middle of the lineup, and essentially who's hitting in a good offense. I don't think you're expecting high batting average from catchers outside William Contreras, but I think if you are going to really kind of look at the second catcher, and that's a big thing in NFBC leagues, is you want to go with the plate appearances. You want to go on a good offense. And
and to your point, he's hitting 5th when he plays, 4th or 5th or something like that. So he's not hitting at the bottom of the lineup. They're giving him a good position in the lineup. So to that point as well, that's a good thing to bring up. Forgot about that.
Yeah. And just the multi-position eligibility on other leagues. If you do have a William Contreras, and now you can plug him in the outfield or a single catcher league. So I think we're all in agreement that David Fry, if he's in your league right now, stop, press pause on this, go pick him up, then press resume. But we're talking about another multi-eligible guy for our next one, and that's Mr. Dylan Moore. Over the last 7 days, and I promise you, I'm going to get some of these graphics back up so you can see it yourself, but 318 batting average, a 483 OBP, 682 slug, which is something we don't say often for Dylan Moore. 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 2 steals in that stretch, 2 runs. So he's giving you help in every counting stat. Something to note, though, when you look at his 2023 to 2024, the walk rate, 9.7 to 12%. The K rate, though, down from 34% to 22.8%. This is actually the lowest K percentage of his career. And the BABIP is 286. So it's not like he's getting extremely lucky. So, Marty, Dylan Moore, obviously, the multi-position eligibility is a great add. But just from the skills alone, is that somebody that you're looking to target long-term?
Anytime somebody has a barrel rate that's consistently, around 9% or higher, I'm always somewhat interested in them. Looking at Dylan, he's even moved up to number 2 in the order. So the Mariners are believing in him, and just overall, the Mariners are struggling. So they're kind of just going with whoever does have that hot hand. He currently does. He's hitting the ball at an extremely hard rate. You already said the most important thing is plate discipline. He has a completely different approach. He's not striking out as much, and he's getting walked as much as possible, 12% of the time. That's incredible. Everything I'm seeing, he's completely sold out for power. He's even increased his launch angle. It's now up to 24. It was 21 last year. Anything over like 15, 16, 17, that's when we start getting in. If you're near 20, that means you are fully selling out for power. So that's his approach right now. It's currently working. You look at his Baseball Savant page over the years, he consistently does hit the ball hard. So he hits fastballs hard. Everything's looking good from here. Now, where can you really? It's like in most deeper leagues, he's gone, right? So I think he's worth like a 10-team league, like a Yahoo, second base, shortstop, outfield eligible in a Yahoo league. I think he's currently worth picking up. He's 49% rostered in Yahoo right now. That's went up 8% the last few days. So with his power, his plate discipline, and that eligibility that we talked about, Dylan Moore is a good pickup right now.
One of the things you had mentioned about Seattle is that they have him hitting 2, and they're having J-Rod hit 6 back-to-back games. That's the lowest he's hit in his career. And the irony is the Mariners are number 1 in the division. You usually don't see teams shake it up like this. Now, they're not setting the world on fire, and the AL West might be the worst statistically so
pitching.
far.
Their pitching's incredible.
Their pitching is incredible, but it's just interesting that they're giving 31-year-old Dylan Moore hypothetically more plate appearances than the 22, 23-year-old face of the franchise who is undergoing a rough stretch. And we are going to talk about this later in the show.
Yeah.
Julio Rodriguez.
I have some comments on the Seattle Mariners approach to hitting. We'll get into it later.
Ooh, that's a little foreshadow. But going to the pitching side, and here we are. We're talking about Miami Marlins, who have actually been on a little bit of a stretch, 7-3 over their last 10 games, right when you thought that they were tanking this year when they traded Luis Arias and the comments were made. And a big part of it is Ryan Weathers. Over the last 5 starts, he's gone 6 innings in his last 5 starts. But over the last 3 starts, 21 innings, 1 earned run, 19 Ks to 4 walks. Now, he's only 1-0 because the Marlins don't get run support like that. But Ryan Weathers, for the season, 3-4. So, of course, he has a losing record. But a 3.16 ERA and a 1.09 whip in 63 innings. Art, Ryan Weathers, is this a name that you need to keep on your radar, or is this kind of a hot stretch that we've seen?
Well, Weathers was pitching well in spring training and showed better strikeout stuff, which increased his draft stock. Then came out, had a pretty poor April. His walks were way up. He's walking about over 4.5 per 9 in April. Had at least 3 games with 3 walks. But what you see is, like you said, the walks are down now. He has 5 walks in 33 innings in all of May. And it really is, it seemed like the calendar came turning over, was the indicator. Someone talked to him at the beginning of May because his walks started to drop off right when that happened. But the Ks haven't dropped off really that much. He's not striking out a ton. The last two starts, his strikeouts have been up. I was watching some of the pitches against Milwaukee, and I think Milwaukee was helping him out a little bit with some of those Ks, but his pitches were in the zone. They had good movement. I thought he looked pretty sharp, and I think I'd be picking him up, based off the spring training buzz and the fact that he looked good, and he seems to have, sort of righted the ship this month from a tough April.
When you look at the teams that he's played against, at Arizona, 6 innings, 4 hits, no earned. Versus Milwaukee, 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned. At Detroit, sorry, Marty, 8 innings, 3 hits, no earned. At LA, 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned. And then at Oakland, 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned. That's a mix of good and bad teams. I'm going to be interested because he threw about 136 innings last year. And before that, he threw 126. He's at 63 right now. We're about a third of the way through this season. And as the Marlins start to fall out actually of contention and they are more mathematically eliminated, do they tailor his innings? Do they have phantom IL stints? I think Ryan Weathers, and I'm sure you guys would agree, he's a sell high right now.
You think he's a sell high? You wouldn't keep him on like a roto team until he gets shut down? It's one thing you said, like, I don't know what's better, shutting them down at a certain point or this stop and start phantom ILs and like they're doing with Max Meyer right now.
I don't think it's going to happen right now, but I think when it happens, it's going to be a little bit more consistent. Is the value that you're going to get for him any more than it would be now?
I will say, if you're able to make him a complimentary piece in a bigger trade, like in the 10-team league, I think that's a good move. In a deep league, like I have him in Glarf, I'm holding because I don't think he's this good. I think he's probably closer to a 4 ERA. The K percentage just isn't there. But he keeps the ball on the ground, and that's a good part. And the Marlins they've done very well with developing pitching over the last 5-10 years. Now their front office will get rid of them as soon as they do get really good and expensive, but they consistently have very good pitching.
Yeah. Well, Marty, it's funny you mentioned he's a 4 ERA guy because his expected ERA is 3.99. So I don't know if that was intentional, but if not, that's a great alley-oop that you did. And I agree, 15-team leagues, you're holding on to him, but I love adding him as a complementary piece in a 10 to 12-team league. But Marty, staying with you and trademarked, I'm a Woo guy. So we're talking about Bryan Woo today. Last 2 starts, 12 innings, 7 hits, 3 earned, no walks, 0 zilch, 8 Ks at Nationals, at New York Yankees. You'd mentioned the Mariners' success is a large part because of their pitching. So with Bryan Woo, he is somewhat on a pitch count. He began the season on the IL. He only has 4 starts on the year. I'm not saying if you're going to expect this long term, but with Bryan Woo, what do you see that you like so far this season?
Woo is very interesting this year. And just for an overall innings pitch projection, he went 87 innings last year. I think 120 would be reasonable.
Ooh.
So, and that has him pretty much paced out for, I mean, barring injury, I think that's where they'll have him. I think maybe that's his ceiling. But yeah, overall, I mean, 2.1 xERA, 2.5 walk percentage. What's very interesting is his strikeout percentage has decreased. Last year, 25.1. Now it's down to 20.3. He's not walking people. We established that, but he's pitching the contact. So when there's a pitcher that's pitching the contact, and xERA is 2.17, that's a good sign. But then we go look at his BABIP, and Doc, I know you're a BABIP guy. He's pitching to a 169 BABIP at this point. So everything's there where you should believe that maybe he's around a 3 ERA pitcher, but he's been lucky here. So I'm holding him everywhere. As you know, I am a Woo guy. I've believed in Woo since he first came up. I'm going to continue to do so. He is a fragile man. I've noticed he's often hurt. So if you're adverse to that, or if you realize that you have like a pitching staff that's pretty volatile, you want to move him. But other than that, I would just I would hold him.
I'm scared about Woo in the sense that he hasn't thrown 80 pitches in any of his 4 outings. And I think it's normal, maybe the first or the second, but when it's the third or the fourth. And didn't he leave his second outing because he re-aggravated his forearm or elbow and he felt tightness?
Yeah, there was something, and then he was fine, the week later. But yeah, that's something too. Yeah,
the elbow is what worries me. That's the only thing that worries me about Woo. Because it's the same. He had the thing that last season it shut him down for a few days, and then it's the same thing in March of this year, which is why he started the season on the IL. So hopefully he's fully healthy now. That's my only concern is his health.
Yeah.
I mean, that would make me want to trade him. Yeah, Woo exits first game back from forearm tightness.
Yeah.
That was on
forearm tightness. Dun, dun. If you're a pitcher.
May 10th, 2024. So only a few weeks ago. So showing discomfort, but not extreme pain, if that makes you feel better.
Yeah.
Discomfort.
You know what? It makes me feel a little bit better than that. We have a question, and this actually ties into one of our segments here. As a Ronald Acuna owner, is stashing Jason Dominguez for a potential call-up later be a priority? James Wood is already taken. I'm going to give it to the floor with you guys. If you are a Ronald Acuna owner, there is no replacement. But would you stash Dominguez? Is there another person potentially to stash? And then we're going to talk more about the Acuna stuff.
Okay. So overall, Jason Dominguez, I'm not convinced that the Yankees are calling him up this year. I'm not there's no reason not to, but as of right now, I think they're pretty solid with everything that they're doing. Of course, they could bring him in, late when they do get the extra couple roster spots, but that'll be closer to September. So I don't have a direct person I think would be better than him, but I would keep that in mind and do some digging and make sure that you're comfortable and you do believe that the Yankees will definitely call him up. And then are we getting into the full Acuna? Do you want to just do the discussion now? Because it kind of does tie into it.
But before we do that, I want to know Art's thoughts, because he seemed like he disagreed when you thought that Dominguez might not get called up.
As I look at the depth chart for the Yankees right now, they have a set everyday outfield of Judge, Soto, and Verdugo. Stanton's their DH. But I think Dominguez is the call up if any of those guys go on the IL. But I don't think that there's a lot of room. Trent Grisham right now is the defensive replacement outfielder that they have, and there's just not a lot of room. He'd be the fifth outfielder or have to bench Verdugo in some way, and Verdugo's hitting really well. Not only did they trade for him to be their starting outfielder, but he's also playing pretty well for him right now. And so, it's possible that he's an injury away and not like more of an injury away than like they're waiting for the right time to call him up.
Well, to keep in mind, Dominguez is coming back from an injury of his own. The most recent update 6 days ago was that he the Yankees transferred his rehab assignment to AA Somerset. And in single A, he went 5 for 13 with a double and 4 walks in 4 games. So he's progressing well on his end.
Yeah.
But will he be able to play the outfield? Because we know the Yankees need that DH spot. They cannot guarantee. They can't give it to Dominguez. There's no way they can do that. So
yeah,
Marty,
he's throwing from 60 feet last I've seen.
I'm with you, Marty. M. Perez, me personally, I think Jason Dominguez is more of a name at this point rather than someone that's going to give you value this season. But
if there's an injury, he's going to go for a ton. In fact,
when Giancarlo Stanton gets hurt, there will be.
Well, does that change your mind? How long do you think you're going to have to hold him? Like if Stanton stays healthy all season, that was a bad stash. Or the worst part of it, you pick him up, hold him for 4 weeks, say, I can't hold him anymore, drop him, then he gets called up the next week. So,
I mean, if you have a room to stash, and I think bias goes into it. If you're a Yankees fan or if you're somebody that has seen him personally or his ceiling, I think when we talked about last week, stashing equals ceiling. So unless you think that another player has a higher ceiling than Jason Dominguez, I would stash him.
How do we feel about Jason Dominguez in the field?
Marty, you and I saw him at first pitch Arizona.
Yeah,
he dropped 2 fly balls. That gives my answer.
Oh God, I completely forgot about that. You're right, man. That was man. That's the only time I've seen him play, and it wasn't good. But is he, because at this point when Dominguez is going to be starting to play again, Trent Grisham, because of his defense, and he's a very good defensive, he's Gold Glover near it consistently. Will that bat be worth it? I don't know. Mike, what's up, man? I don't know. I think that's interesting. So we got to look at playing time because of the DH. And then if we see him in these exhibition games playing outfield, which I don't think he's able to make those throws yet already with like crow hopping and whatnot.
Like
but
Johnny Damon.
Yeah.
Johnny Damon it in.
Former Tiger.
Shot put it.
So I'm going to change my answer because he's had bad luck with injuries and awful play. His 5 outfields, 12-team rotos. Started with Acuna, Evan Carter, Nolan Jones, Jack Sawinski, Jung-Hoo Lee. It seems like everybody's been hurt or been demoted. So you actually need someone that's going to impact you sooner. So I would not stash Dominguez then.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're rolling out with Jake Fraley, Alec Burleson, Wilyer Abreu, Max Kepler, and Davis Schneider, which that's
pretty good. That's pretty good backfilling right there.
Yeah. Hey, you're gritting and grinding.
Yeah. Kepler's been a great pickup. Burleson's been hot. Wilyer also. Fraley, I like him. His play can be inconsistent. I didn't know Schneider was outfield eligible anywhere. This is news to me.
Second base, outfield eligible, and the new leadoff hitter, new being the past week for the Toronto Blue Jays, in case you haven't been paying attention.
I have, because I got to see the Blue Jays in Detroit here play against my Detroit Tigers, and we won in extra innings, a Matt Vierling walk-off home run, 13-11. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, David Schneider was there, and I thought of you guys, obviously, especially with his mustache.
Oh, thank you. The oldest looking like 24, 25-year-old out there. But, we wanted to touch larger on the Ronald Acuna injury. So unless you've been living under a rock, you've seen what happened, a complete tear of his left ACL. That is not good. That is the other knee that he tore up in 2021. So this could be a career-altering injury. I don't want to say a career-ending because he's proven that he's a freak of nature, but tearing an ACL in each leg, especially with a complete tear, you wonder the type of player that he's going to be, especially on the base paths this year. So for the first part of this, the impact it has on the Braves players, a lot of them already rostered. The guys like Jared Kelenic and Adam Duvall are probably going to get more playing time. But Marty, what impact do you think that this has on the rest of the Braves lineup, if any?
Well, one, I want to first bring up, what's the worst way to get... So I have Ronald Acuna in my Glarf league. Glarf is very important to me. So what's worse, to be on Twitter by yourself and you scroll and you see it, or Doc randomly texting me during a baseball game? So I look at it and I see that Ronald Acuna's knee is hurt.
Do you not want me to text you in the future?
Of course, but it was more a discussion. Do you prefer your friend to text you devastating news, or do you prefer to just, be on Twitter and you learn it yourself and you kind of with your own thoughts? Which one's better?
What one man's devastating is another man's profitable.
That's true.
Is that what you sent the text?
No,
you have an underbet on Acuna?
No. You know what? Shout out to Underdog, because I I turn on Underdog notifications. So I'm here doing my tinker time, and I just pull out my phone. It says Ronald Acuna leaves game because of knee. I'm like, no way. And then I had to text everybody I know.
No, that was cool. I'd like to learn things as soon as possible. And that's the fun of fantasy. Brings everybody together here. Yeah. Although that is devastating news. But back to...
I'd rather see it on Twitter. I would not want my friend to text me.
I think it's easier when you're by yourself and you see it on Twitter and you just like I think that's an easier way to go about it. But there's always something also satisfying with texting your friend, knowing they have the player on their team and you're in the same league with them. Just a little subtle dig.
Low. I wouldn't.
That is low. I may or may not have done it. But anyway, back to the question about the Atlanta Braves and how it's going to affect the lineup, losing Ronald Acuna for the year. It's good in some ways. More at bats for Ozzie Albies, potentially more at bats for Michael Harris if he ever can take a walk. More at bats for Riley. I see he's moved up. So right now, Ozzie Albies is leading off. Austin Riley in the second spot. Marcell Ozuna third, and then cleanup for Matt Olson. Acuna, even though he was not himself, and I wonder if because his other knee was affected, and he injured that earlier, if that made his other knee unstable. He was not himself throughout this entire year. I watched him very closely. The power wasn't there, so his power was down to what it was a few years back. Coming off that knee surgery. So anyway, but as far as the lineup goes, there's enough firepower there where I only believe it's going to be more opportunities for the big guys. And then for the fourth outfielders of the world or whoever they're going to trade to this lineup, that's going to be a huge upgrade. Whoever they get, you got to have talking about having, updates on your phone. If you're able just to pick somebody up, an outfielder going there is going to be huge.
Do you think they make a move?
I think Alex Anthopoulos is a big trader. I mean, he's going to upgrade. He's not going to give up on the season. When Acuna got injured last, they won the World Series. He's not giving up on the team, and there's all different ways to get into the playoffs this year. I think there are a number of good trade targets for them to go after. A lot of teams angling themselves to make a trade to trade an outfielder. So I think there are trades to be had if he wants it, and I think he's going to do it because that's how Anthopoulos handled it last time. And they're too good. This is a window. They're in the window, and they realize the window is open even if Acuna's injured. So
and they're especially in the window because of their pitching. They're going to be losing Max Fried. We don't know how long Chris Sale is going to go. There's Charlie Morton's only getting older. So they need the win right now, to Art's point.
Yeah. I mean, I think you bring up a good point. They won without Acuna in 2021. This is a win now team. They're 30-21. You know, they probably won't win the division, but they are primed for a wild card spot. And I think in MLB, more than any other sport, you can win with a getting in the wild card. I mean, it is going to be hard to replace Acuna. Obviously, he wasn't himself, but a 351 OBP still plays. A table setter. Somebody just the threat of the base pass. But speaking of the threat of the base pass, and we talked about this little pre-show, I feel bad for Ronald Acuna. I really do. And look, I'm someone that I had multiple hundreds of dollars on his under stolen bases. And while that part of me, yes, I'm going to profit on that. I don't like to see players hurt. The game is better with him. And this is frustrating because in spring training, he tweaks his knee, gets sent for an MRI because he's trying to get out of a rundown in a spring training game. And with this play that he tore his ACL on, he thinks the pitcher is running or is tossing it back slow, and he's trying to steal a base at the top of the first. And then he realizes that they're throwing it back further than they can or faster than they are. And that's when he stops and his knee gives out. First of all, Ronald Acuna is an underpaid player. He was signed early, and this is only going to damage his shot at getting a long-term extension. But I don't like that he did this. I think there's very few players that could do what he was trying to do. And Acuna, who had last season the 72nd percentile in sprint speed, he's not that guy. That's the Ellie De La Cruzes of the world that are the fastest guys in the game or that are fighting for that contract. So it is frustrating to see, even though I don't have Acuna in any places, even though I am going to profit from this injury. It sucks because I like him playing and I like seeing him out there, and it just feels like this was preventable.
Did your lawyer write that for you?
I mean, not.
For real, buddy. Tell me you're not out there cracking a beer when you found out he's a my underbet gun. Listen to me. Your fake sincerity at how bad you feel is disgusting, even though you performed it very well.
Look, I want people to get paid. He signed an 8-year, $100 million contract in 2019. He way outperformed that. Yeah. And I will never root for somebody to get. Now, I was rooting for him to not steal bases. I was rooting for him to take a lot of days off. That's for sure. I was rooting for him to strike out a bunch. So, look.
Which he was doing that more so than he ever does.
Yeah, and he was on pace for 51 before. I was watching every game. So, I would have felt better had he not got hurt.
He would not have gotten to 70 steals last year if he didn't play that way, though, the way that got him injured, I think. And I think he does have the speed to be, because he proved it. I mean,
he was on base he was on base more than he was last. He had a 416 OBP last year as opposed to a 351.
Yeah, but
he's striking out way more than he was last year. Last year was an anomaly for the K rate.
Well, one thing I don't know off the top of my head where the stolen base attempts versus opportunities numbers are for him. I think you're right. Like, it was an indicator that if we had listened to it, like as you said, as we were talking about before, like we could have listened to the indicator of his injury, even though he was healthy again before the season started. But I think the injury, as Marty was saying, that's why he wasn't able to be the absolute dynamic and seemingly safe pick coming into the season that I think he was.
It's like what happened with Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper used to get hurt every year when he first got called up with the Nationals because he went 100 miles an hour all the time. Mm-hmm. And look, if you're going to talk about Acuna, this is his playing style. That's fine. I get it. He should have not done that in spring training. That's to me the difference, is knowing when to do it and when not to.
Yeah, I mean, in the short term, we have to ask ourselves, is he going to be himself for next year? Because that's what we're looking at. So 2025, Acuna, he talked about, and his teammates said, the year coming off his last ACL injury, that he did not fully trust his knee throughout that entire year. So it took him then an extra season to even get acquainted, or get comfortable with that. So 2025, expect Acuna. Where do you think he's going? Are we thinking late first?
Oh my gosh, no! Outside top 100.
Well, what is an
Really?
ACL injury?
He has a
Not
complete
football.
tear of his ACL.
What's that?
He has a complete tear of his ACL.
But the ACL injuries, are we sure he's done for the season?
Absolutely, yes.
This season, but not 2025.
Because, like, there are guys coming back on football in one season, and that's only like a 4-month season.
Yeah, but that first off, that's maybe their first ACL tear. He's now torn it in both knees. And
I don't think that affects recovery time in separate knees, though.
I don't like that he doesn't.
I don't think I know it affects
knee.
his long-term health.
Yeah, he's a drop. Don't hold him in case. But like,
no, yeah, he's gone. Yeah.
Like end of September, playoff pinch hits. Like
absolutely not.
You don't think so?
Absolutely not.
I wonder if there's going to be a prop on that one if he gets an at bat this season.
They might, but I think outside top 100 because he's not going to. If he comes back, he's probably not going to be stealing bases.
No.
And I'd imagine the sprint speed, maybe for the beating out singles, is going to go down. So his average will inevitably drop. And if the power wasn't there, I mean, are you going to get like somewhat empty batting average and runs with this guy?
Yeah, I think it's
going to be interesting. I don't know.
I mean, his power was way down when he came back from the last, like Marty said, he went 15-29 in a full season.
Yeah.
So next season
was down this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forrest brings up a good point. He said Adrian Peterson had his best year off in ACL. Ronald Acuna did too. The second one is what worries me.
Outside of the top 100, I love that. I don't know. I'm very interested to see how drafters will be taking them going into next year.
I want to bring this up as well because I was not on record on the Twitter space, but through text, me and some others, we liked Bobby Witt as the number 1 overall pick. And I thought that there was
May I ask? I have a question. Is that after or before his injury tweak in spring training?
It was before.
Okay.
I thought that you were chasing his ceiling from last year where just the K percentage was down, the power and speed. You know, I thought there would be a little bit of correction on the stolen base, but I thought that Bobby Witt was a safer pick in terms of he's going to give you more steals. He will probably give you a little bit of a higher batting average. And it was a shallower position. But I if you guys have the number 1 overall pick, do you feel a certain sense of pressure to go with the consensus? Like if you didn't take Acuna prior to the tweak in spring training, do you think you could have?
I think he could, and I think people did, especially with Spencer Strider. I mean, at a certain point, people were just drafting him number 1 overall. So that did start to happen after, he tweaked his knee. But talking about the pressure, I definitely think there is some sort of pressure. Depends on the league you're in, and how much the league means to you. I think there's that little bit of pressure to not take the wrong person or to think too far outside of the box. But Acuna, I drafted Acuna before his MVP year, right? So he was a number 1 pick for me last year. So this year it was, and he even had a better season. The contact rate's great. The power was great. Even if, I think I agree with the strikeout percentage never being that low again. And then you add in the stolen bases. It was a no-brainer first pick, just from a statistical, point of view.
I think the consensus this season was stronger than it has been in my recent memory over who was the number 1 pick as well, which was part to Eric's point is that, this year it was an even stronger. The discussion wasn't like who you got number 1. The discussion was, does anyone have anyone else number 1 than Ronald Acuna, which a year ago you had Trey Turner or Acuna. Acuna was a solid number 1, but as you're saying, he was coming off of a 15-29 season. So people weren't, there was some trepidation about his power. And Trey Turner went number one in plenty of leagues. I'm not sure who else was, but there were at least two people. The year before, there were probably a couple people. So I think part of that this year it was especially strong. I was all on board with Acuna for all the reasons that Marty said. His skills backed up the stats. Of course, you're not going to expect the same results, but his skills backed up the stats he put up last year for the most part.
Does trajectory get to you guys at all? So obviously Acuna is regressing from last year. No way he does 40, 70 again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say no way, but highly unlikely. And then Bobby Witt, whose power increased from 20 to 30 home runs, whose stolen bases increased from 30 to 49 stolen bases, and whose batting average increased from 254 to 276. Does that play into it at all? The sort of trajectory where you're paying for what Acuna did last year, but you don't know the ceiling of Bobby Witt Jr. yet.
I will say this, that the fact that Ronald Acuna was the number one pick, or was the best player in fantasy last year, that meant 100% he was not going to be this year, because no one ever is. No one repeats as the number one fantasy player. So by that viewpoint, yes. But let's be clear on Bobby Witt. I had him he was my number 2 pick. So there was not too much of a drop off. But all those things you said are on, but the context of where Witt plays and who's around him was another tiebreaker for me.
Yeah.
I wanted Ronald Acuna in that lineup, at the top of that lineup, in the Georgia Heat for 4 months. Like it's great. Kauffman Stadium. It's more of a hitter's park than we think. It's just that not as many home runs come out of there. So that's why in our minds, we think of it not as a hitter park, but it actually does. There's a lot of offense. It's a top 10 offense stadium, just not home runs in general. So, and then Pasquantino, was he going to take that next step? Salvador Perez, he's often hurt. He would be hitting behind him for runs. So there's just a lot of questions, I think, with the Royals that weren't there for the Braves.
I also think that even if you were projecting even a down season for Acuna, a down season would be 30-30, 30-40 type of. That would be a 25% or bigger reduction in the production he put out last season. Would be a 30-50 season, and that's what Witt put up last season.
Would you have taken Acuna number 1 after he tweaked his knee in spring training? Because he was still going number 1 when the MRIs came back clean.
Yeah, no. And I had the opportunity. I did not do it in both an auction and in a standard snake draft. And no.
I don't know. I didn't have the opportunity. I started to avoid the top of the draft because of all the injuries that were happening, and I didn't want to have my second pick be so far back, because I thought I wanted to go hitting first pick. I did, and I wanted to get a pitcher with my second pick. So with all the pitching injuries, I felt like going 1, unless I wanted to go Strider. If I had 1, I would have gone Strider probably towards the end. Yeah, actually, I would have gone Strider.
Do you think moving forward, you're going to take, if you have the number 1 overall pick, you want someone with a clean bill of health? Doesn't matter what they did last year. The number 1 player in your mind has to be healthy entering the season.
Absolutely.
That's a good rule. Like if you're, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's the number 1 thing for me is you can win your drafts later, but if you mess up your first picks, it's really, really hard to climb out from that hole, especially if you have the number 1 pick in a 15-team league. You're not getting it back till 29, 30, 31, and there's a huge drop off. And then if your number 1 pick does get hurt, then you're really at a disadvantage.
I think when a player is coming off an injury, there's an opportunity to get him in the second round, because maybe there's all the people around you are thinking the same thing, like, I don't want him. So maybe you can get him in the second round. But I think Ronald Acuna Jr. next year will be a top 30 pick.
I agree.
Oh, I mean, top 30 pick.
Not by me.
Yeah,
Not by me.
that's
Let
what
me
I'm.
be clear here.
We're going to have spring training to see him. So by the end of, if he's playing in spring training, we're going to have a
And
good,
he should.
Yeah.
It should take around 8-9 months for him to be, doing normal stuff, and then he has another few months from there to maybe he misses the first month of the season.
Yeah, in like an October draft or a December draft. I'm not sure where I'm taking him quite yet, but if I see him playing, yeah, I mean, we're going to get a good look at him.
We'll see. We'll see. Just touching on some other injuries. Christian Javier, forearm tightness. He is going on the IL. Second IL stint for him this year. First was neck tightness. So we'll see. You don't like 2 IL stints for 2 separate body parts.
You do if you are an owner of Hunter Brown, because he's going to get another shot, guys. He gets another. He had a good outing last week. He was picked up in Fab by a couple different people. He put 50. I think he went for $52 this week in Glarf. But so that is the only upside, that if you have Brown, they're not. I don't think they're going to demote him yet.
What can Brown do for you? He can provide good outings. That's what he can do.
Wayne State, downtown Detroit, represent Hunter Brown.
You guys got any love for Spencer Arrighetti?
Deep leagues.
He's okay. Yeah. He's
not
spectacular, but he gets some Ks. He gets Ks.
Yeah.
Ks and walks.
Austin Gomber scratch Monday with general arm soreness. They haven't said if it's going to be something that keeps him out long term. The idea was that he's ready for the Dodgers rotation or for the Dodgers series. Max Muncy still feeling his oblique strain, is not going to be activated when they thought, coming off the IL. Obliques being tricky, so we'll keep you updated on that. And then Stephen Kwan beginning rehab assignment, so he could be headed back for some action soon. It's not like the Guardians need him. Guardians are still thriving without him.
It's funny with Austin Gomber. You get Gomber even when he doesn't pitch. There's a lot of people who picked him up, and look what happened.
I got outbid. I got outbid for him in Fab yesterday, and I was upset about it.
How much did you put down for him?
I put down 7 because I was like
6.
Because I'm not going to put down a lot of money only to have him kill my ratios when they're doing really well. That's the best part of my TGFBI team, is my pitching, and I can't have him kill that. So,
do you know your pitching off the top of your head?
In terms of like my ratios?
No, like your starters.
Corbin Burns, Pepio's on my bench this week, so I'll read it down. Corbin Burns, Dylan Cease, Chris Sale, Robert Gasser, Reese Olson, Ronaldo Lopez, and I started Mitchell Parker, and then Pepio on my bench.
So
pretty solid staff.
For the listeners, so 15-team league, TGFBI, with there's 300 and something participants all in the industry.
You're 420.
400 and something? Okay.
420.
And where are you currently overall?
5th.
So that's what a top 5 pitching staff looks like. It's about 5 studs that are outperforming where we thought, and you got them at a discount, and you were smart about it. So,
oh my gosh, let me tell you, I'll never be this good again.
That's awesome.
But last thing that I want to touch on tonight, because I think this is going to take us a little bit of time, I want to give some credit to Nathan Bishop on Twitter, putting this tweet out a couple days ago. We touched on Julio Rodriguez today, and Marty, sorry this is blocking you out, but the Mariners have played 52 games, and Julio Rodriguez has a triple slash of 252, 300, 306. So he is not mashing the ball at all. His bat has gotten worse every year in the majors, but he's so good at defense that he's still useful. It's pretty bad up to this point. And I want to follow up with the next tweet regarding his WRC plus. So if you'll give me 1 second from here while I get this screen out from his WRC plus, because Marty's a WRC plus guy, like I'm a BABIP. So Julio monthly WRC plus since the start of 2023, 107, 111, 77, 132, 232, 103, 80, and 81. So you throw out that 232 month, and you got a range of 80 to 132, who is an elite center field defense. I kind of want to open this up. in terms of a redraft perspective, do you swallow the first, second round pick you spent on him? Do you try and flip him for the name value? And in a dynasty league, I mean, he's young. Are you trying to flip him now before the skills regress even more? And the last thing I want to say before I flip it to you guys, the Mariners already paid him. They don't have a lot of other bats on the team, where as opposed to, I feel like they didn't have to pay him so early and they could have surrounded him with vets, but the offense seems to be getting worse and the expectation was that he would carry it.
Yeah. So number one, I touched on it about the Seattle Mariners offense. So I'll start with them. I'll give them a little bit of a break. Overall, the hitter, it's a hard park to hit in. That's why I said draft as many Mariners, pitchers as possible. Not only are they good, but where they pitch, it's incredibly hard for the batters to see the ball. So in this environment, that's very prone to it's the most strikeouts in the league come from there. So that's number one against you. It's a big ballpark and the ball doesn't carry that well. So that's all part of it. So that's taking a little bit of heat off of Seattle, the Mariners. Now, looking at the Mariners organization, you look up and down that roster, and over the last 5 years, who have they helped? Who has come to the Seattle Mariners and gotten really better? Teoscar Hernandez has talked about how, he was absolutely terrible. It's hard for him to see. He couldn't do anything about it. Eugenio Suarez, he never found his footing there. Colton Wong, AJ Pollock, Mitch Garver, Jesse Winker. Jesse Winker now is fantasy viable. He's out of that environment, out of those hitting coaches. Ty France has never took that step. We always, we've been waiting him to get that power. It just
they ruined
happened.
Dustin Ackley's career.
It's Abraham Toro. It's just there's a lot of players who have gone there and have not succeeded, or they've stayed pretty much the same. But there's many have gotten worse. So part of it is the park. Part of it is the organization. You will go to look at Julio's raw tools, expecting batting average 276. He's barreling the ball at a good rate. Hard hit rates through the roof. He's just striking out a ton. So it's his approach. He's not walking and he's striking out a lot. All of the tools are still there. He's sprint speed 98th percentile. So long term, I'm not scared. He's 23 years old and he's already showed like an MVP style or MVP trajectory for him. So no, I'm not scared. I would not try to move him. This last year, the first few months were tough and he bounced back and he was at least serviceable, because everyone's looking at his stats and know he's struggling. So I don't know if you're going to be able to get as much as you should for him. And for that reason, I would hold him.
I also think that you might be trading him, and miss out on the 223 WRC plus month that will happen later this season. And that's the thing. Like Doc said, if you take that out, his months don't look that great. But if you leave it in, it looks pretty decent, and I think he's the type of player who can have those types of months, those types of hot stretches. And right now what we're seeing is his expected batting average is the best of his career. He's swinging more at zone pitches, which is bringing down his zone contact, but his overall contact rate is pretty in line with where it has been throughout his career. I think right now it looks like he's not pulling the ball as much as he was, and hitting it back up the middle, which of course is going to give you that better batting average. But he needs, we want him to pull to get to those bigger home run numbers. So I don't know. It's possible that when it warms up, he'll start getting into more power. I don't think that I would want to trade him either, just because I think that he's going to have one of those big months again this season. I believe in him. I think he's a major talent. I don't think he has had much skills regression at all, actually.
And the ups and downs also come from the fact that he has that high strikeout rate. That's what happens when you strike out. What is it up to now? 27.5% of the time. So striking out nearly a third of the time. But when you actually go to like how he's doing against pitches, against fastballs, expected batting average of 309, breaking balls, XBA of 255. It's off-speed pitches that are killing him. He has an XBA of 185. It's all about adjusting, and so he needs coaches in there to help him with that. So I can't wait for the day until they fire every coach there and they restart. It'll be a good day.
But just looking at the trends, the walk percentage from 7.1 to 6.6 to 5.2%. Mm-hmm. The K percentage has floated around 25%, 25.9, 24.5, 27.5 this year. The BABIP has always been high, 345, 330, 351 this year. And he's never been a high OBP guy. His OBP is 306 this year, a 340 slug. Now, obviously, he's not a scrub, but Marty, I'll flip it around then. It sounds like he's a buy low guy for you then. So who would you be targeting then for Julio? And I will say the price has probably gone up because he has 2 homers in the last 3 games.
He's already starting to break out of it once summer comes. I think somewhere around if you can get like a 3rd or 4th round pick, I think let's say I want Julio, I would probably do like a 4th or 3rd round pick to try to get him, something like that. Or you can try to do like a 7th, 8th round pick or someone who's over, doing better than you thought he would. I just don't know who really thinks Julio Rodriguez isn't going to at least, be a 25 guy this year.
Well, what about, I think let's say you need pitching and Shota Imanaga's available for J-Rod.
That's a great one. I would keep Julio Rodriguez.
What about Tarek Skubal?
I would. I think I would take Skubal.
Skubal?
Yeah, I would take Skubal.
If you need pitching.
It's not a shot at Imanica. I have him, TGFBI, I have him in a couple other places. He has a 0.84 ERA. His xERA is 2.62, which is still great. I mean, everything looks good there. What I am concerned about him is progressing into the summer, those days where the ball flies out in Wrigley. The further we get into September, further there, that's when I start to kind of worry about him more so. Only because I haven't seen it.
So, I got one more guy, Chris Sale for J-Rod if you needed pitching.
Ooh, that's a good one. These are good ones, Art.
These are really good ones. I would keep Julio Rodriguez.
Okay, Skubal's you got to be a top 50 type of guy.
Okay, now I'll give you hitters. Marty, you're trading for J-Rod. Are you giving up Marcus Semien for him?
No, I'm keeping Semien because he's second base eligible, and there's no. It's a wasteland.
Okay, Alec Bohm.
Yes.
I'm going to say Alec Bohm and Jazz Chisholm.
Yikes.
For J-Rod.
Keeping J-Rod.
Jazz
is too injury prone, and I don't believe Alec Bohm. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We switch out Jazz Chisholm with Teoscar Hernandez. So Teoscar and Alec Bohm, 2 guys that are performing now. Bohm, 3rd and 1st base eligible. Teoscar outfield, and arguably the best offense for J-Rod.
What I would think about Teoscar, with this one, I would actually look to my to the categories that I need. Teoscar is going to be great at RBI. He's doing excellent. He's 4th or 5th in that lineup every day. So that batting average is fine, and I think power is equal. If not, Teoscar maybe have more power this year. So it kind of, if you need stolen bases, in other words, Julio Rodriguez is your guy. He's 5 tool. I just don't see a reason to move on from him. And Teoscar's, what is he, 33?
Is he 33?
Is that 32?
I
don't know.
I got 2 more guys.
Yeah.
I got 2 more guys. CJ Abrams for Julio.
I'm keeping Julio Rodriguez, but I love CJ Abrams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Kyle Schwarber.
Julio Rodriguez.
Okay. Or do you
That's
differ
only
on
because
any
Schwarber
of these?
destroys the batting average. Destroys batting average. That's the only.
He destroys batting average, but guess what Schwarber's batting average is this year?
I don't have it in front of me. What is it?
I want you to guess first.
250.
No, he's not that good. 231. 231.
So bad.
That's not bad.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
9
He's
homers,
very close
31
to
RBIs.
225.
Look, if you said Kyle Schwarber was giving you 231 batting average at the beginning of the year, I think you'd be thrilled with that.
10 home runs, 3 stolen bases with an XBA of 245. Yeah, you're right. I would.
Yeah. And I think, once again, better offense.
359 OBP. See, and that's where it gets me back to Julio Rodriguez. It's about plate discipline. Like, if he can understand, like, better pitch recognition, he has all the tools. He's already flashed them, but now the pitchers have adjusted to him, and they haven't been able to make that change, and I don't know why.
Yeah. No, I think that's good thoughts. And, once again, it depends on the league that you're playing in, the different managers that you have. No leagues are black and white. So, if somebody is kind of panicking, maybe they were an Acuna owner and they went 1-2 and they need someone that's given a little bit more offense. I think these are some trade targets. And I think now is the time where you could pull off for a superstar potentially. I want to end this with a question from M. Perez. How long do I hold on to Evan Carter, or is he droppable now? Obviously, Dynasty League, you are not dropping him. Evan Carter is 0 for his last 20 and 2 for his last 38. To put this,
he's droppable. I think he's droppable. He's having a lot of trouble against lefties, and he's not hitting righties that well either. So I think he's droppable. He's lost a lot of playing time. I think we found out that it was a really hot end to last season, and might have another hot stretch, but I would drop him if I found someone to pick up.
Yeah, I'm dropping Evan Carter. I'm dropping Evan Carter for everything that they said. But 2 weeks ago, and maybe this flew a little bit under the radar, he had lower back issues, so he got a cortisone shot. So that could be part of the reason that he's struggling. So injury on top of poor performance, on top of Wyatt Langford potentially coming back soon, equals Evan Carter droppable.
I did want to bring up a couple. I don't know if Art or maybe you have some, Doc, but a couple guys that I know we can't. No one's going to replace Ronald Acuna and what he does, right? But I think there are some people on the waiver wire that can, kind of somewhat help you. And what I would suggest, if you did draft Ronald Acuna like I did, this is the way I'm looking at it. I'm going to look to my categories. If stolen bases, if I'm already not doing well in stolen bases, I may just somewhat punt it. Obviously, if there's an overall, don't do that. If you're in an overall, that will plummet everything. But if you're like in a standard home league or whatever it is, Ronald Acuna, he was helping you out the most by far with stolen bases. Look, be honest with yourself. If you don't think you're going to be able to make that many strides in stolen bases, focus on power. Get as much power as you can and try to make up with some counting stats. So I think Brandon Marsh, who is currently rostered in 35% of leagues, he's hot and cold. I know that he's nowhere near the replacement for Acuna. He's not always playing all the time, but 6 home runs, 8 stolen bases, 24 RBI, 19 runs. He's somewhat serviceable in deep leagues. Art, I'm looking at possibly David Hamilton for some Red Sox second base shortstop for some stolen bases. He's good contact skills. So those are kind of just 2 guys that I believe can kind of chip away at stolen bases if you need them. But if you look at your team and you're honest with yourself, unless you really do trade for stolen bases, you may want to just punt them, in a head-to-head or any league that's obviously not an overall.
Yeah, I agree with you. And given the fact that Acuna was not giving you the power you had expected from him, you might be down on power right now.
That's why I was thinking, if stolen bases, you don't need them. I know you need the power because that's where I'm last in RBI and second in power, or second last in power in that league because of that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure who's going to be available. A lot of the guys have been hitting really well and were not highly thought of coming in the season, like Pham and Profar and Matos have been picked up. I'll tell you, is Kutch still outfield eligible, or is he still strictly DH? Because he's been playing
only utility in
Okay.
NFBC.
Okay. He's been hitting well lately.
He does have outfield eligibility in Yahoo.
Yeah, there you go.
And rostered in where is it? 6% of league. So he is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got a couple home runs over the last 10 games, and this is probably his last year, I would say. That's kind of the way that the Pirates are rolling him out there. So they're going to let him play as long as he can. If he can play, he's going to play.
I mean, Jack Sawinski got demoted, so one less person vying for ABs. Just
true,
saying.
Captain Jack.
Not a bad deep league pickup, I think, Kutch right now.
No. But guys, great show. We are at the hour mark, and one of the things that we've strive to do this year is to talk about more kind of relevant things. Obviously, talked about the WOW players and injuries, but conversations that you might be having with league mates or internally about directions that you need to go, because every league drafted Acuna, which means every owner in a league is feeling the pain of not having him and steps to take. And every owner is feeling the struggle of J-Rod, except for the previous 2 days. So can you take advantage of that, or you riding with the wave? And Marty, LC, and I are always here to help you through it. So guys, before we head off for the night, any last parting thoughts?
As always, thank you for listening. You're the reason why we do it. Happy Memorial Day. Hope everyone enjoyed the 3-day weekend as I did. Got to make it out to a baseball game. Got to hang out with, family and friends and everything like that. So hope all is well for everyone. Everyone's safe and keep grinding. We're getting to that point where some of those football people are going to start to lose focus just a little bit. We're almost getting there. So keep on it.
Yeah. And to your point about Memorial Day, we all came of age. And we knew people who joined the Army, went off to war. Thankfully, everyone I know who went off came back home. Everyone who I knew closely. But that's not for everyone out there. So if you're missing somebody today who served our country, we honor their service here at Triple Play. And that's, we honor them and their sacrifice for our country.
What a serious note, but very true note for us to end on. So I will do our send off of, we're going to make a bread truck, haul these buns. We'll catch you guys next week. Good luck in week 10.